Now, I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker, who has already been partly introduced because he is the co-moderator of the session, and he has given a fantastic introduction. You will have gathered from what he has already said that János Németh is an outstanding speaker. He's a full-time professor and scientific vice director in the Department of Ophthalmology at Semmelweis University in Budapest, Hungary. He has always been interested in epidemiology, and his PhD thesis was actually in the early diagnosis of glaucoma in 1991. And his DSc thesis was on blood circulation of the eye and orbit in 2003. He has taught generations, 40 years of dedication to teaching. He's a prolific scientist who has published 381 scientific papers in high impact journals. He's also authored 10 books and 40 book chapters. It is hard to imagine what more he could do, having already given over 800 lectures at an international level. He's also a fellow member of the European Academy of Ophthalmology. He is a founding member of the Southeast European Ophthalmological Society. He has been heavily involved with virtually every society, but most importantly to me, it's been such a privilege to work with him on the board of the SOE, where he has been a real engine. And it's been a pleasure to produce together the published guidance on management of myopia that he mentioned earlier. János has also been heavily involved with the ICO, the American Academy, the ARVO, and he has been president of the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness from 2012 until 2021. Short of making a whole talk on János, I have to stop and ask him to deliver the second talk of the webinar. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, I would like to give a short summary of epidemiology of myopia. Based on the World Health Organization World Report on Vision, which was issued 2 years ago, there are 2.6 billion people with myopia in the world. So that is the most frequent condition, eye condition, all over the world. So, and here you see the tendency of the myopia, which is increasing very much in time. And by the years of 2050, it will almost reach 5 billion people with myopia. And on the lower line, you see that there is also an increase in the high myopia. And the number of people by the time of 2050 almost reach 1 billion people. So pathologic myopia with myopic maculopathy and associated optic neuropathy in highly myopic eyes can cause significant irreversible visual impairment and blindness, and predicted to become the most common cause of visual impairment and blindness worldwide and also in Europe. So it is predicted that by the year 2050, almost half of the world's population will be myopic and around 10% will be highly myopic. This increase has a huge medical and financial impact and importance. Here you see the increasing prevalence of myopia for East Asian countries. The importance of the marked increase in the prevalence of myopia has been well documented, and in particular in East Asia. as the East Asian countries have experienced by far the most pronounced increase in the myopia prevalence compared to countries in other world regions. Consequently, the experience in preventing the development and progression of myopia in children and adolescents is more advanced in Asia. Here you see the European data, which are a little bit lower, but also increasing very much in time. There are regional differences between Western, Central, and Eastern Europe, and there are other differences geographically in Europe, like that this trend, this increasing trend line seems to be absent in Norway and Denmark. But if you see this, that the European trend prevalence numbers are lower than the East Asian, this is still very high. And by the time of 2050, it will be more than 50% of the population. So it's high, and unless we act now. So the prevalence in different age groups. The highest rate of onset of myopia is currently observed in children aged 7 to 10 years. An early age of onset of myopia appears to be the strongest predictor of high myopia. So also, if we are able to postpone the onset of myopia, it will result a lower chance to be highly myopic. Myopia generally progresses most rapidly during the pre-teenager years, between the age of 7 to 12 years. Here you see the trend lines in children for East Asia, blue dots, and in Europe, red triangle. And you see that around the age of 5, there is almost no myopic prevalence or zero prevalence, but it increases very much in East Asia, up to 90% by the age of 20 years, and in Europe increases above 50% by the 20 years old age. Around half of the myopic children are stabilized by the 15 years of age, and there is evidence for myopia to have stabilized in most myopic individuals by the age of 24 years, except high myopes. Here you see the prevalence of myopia in France in different age groups, and note that the highest prevalence of myopia, more than 50%, is in the age group between 20 and 30 years. We also examined the distribution of refractive errors in Hungary in a large population aged between 18 to 99 years. And we found myopia, the most frequent refractive error, more than 43% of the population had myopia. And if you see the mean refractive error in different age groups, there were myopic refractive mean error in the ages below 44 years, and then there were a decade where the refraction was close to the emmetropia, and then above 60 were hyperopic refraction, and above the age of 75, again, a low myopia appeared. And if we see this distribution of the refractive errors in different age groups, myopia, emmetropia, and hyperopia, the relative distribution showed here. And in the younger age groups, so the generation who was born after 1970, there are more low myopes in this younger age group than in the earlier generations. So the distribution showed that around 50 to 60% of the young are myopic. And in the older age groups, there are less myopia and there are more hyperopic persons. And it is also due to the hyperopic shift during the aging. And again, above the age of 76, there are more low myopes, and it is due to the nuclear sclerosis and also the results of intraocular lens implantation. So as a summary, the prevalence of myopia in younger generation is already 50 to 60% in Europe. Further increase in the prevalence of myopia and high myopia is expected if we do not act now. Introduction of European and national programs are mandatory to implement the evidence-based myopia control interventions. Thank you very much for your kind attention.